Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And today is Tell It All Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show. And, I just wanted to give Tell It All Tuesday an introduction. And good morning, Patty Cake. She says, Grand Rising founder, Grand Rising to you too. And thank you. I didn't get to tell you yesterday. Thank you for sticking up for me in the comments yesterday. Appreciate you. She was like, if you don't stop, you leave founder alone. And I appreciate it. I'm just saying. Goes a long way. But thank you to everybody out there that is joining us here this morning on Tell It All Tuesday. And of course, we're going to start with our Kids Corner and for our inspirational video of the day.
Wondered if your happiness could light up the whole sky? 6-year-old Leora was about to discover that joy shines brighter than any gold. One sunny morning, her grandpa told her, "True joy can make the world brighter." Leora tilted her head, imagining fireworks in the daytime. Later, she saw a boy on the corner, looking sad. His kite was broken. Leora's heart sparkled. Maybe joy could start with fixing something small. She used her ribbon to fix the kite's tail. The boy's eyes lit up. Just then, a breeze carried it high, like a piece of joy flying into the clouds. One afternoon, Leora and the boy ran through the park, the kite dancing above them. She noticed every laugh made the kite fly higher. That night, Grandpa told her, "See, your joy spread from you to the sky." Leora thought the stars looked a little brighter than usual. Leora learned that joy grows when shared. Even the smallest kindness can shine so bright. It feels like lighting up the whole sky.
Yeah, and that's something that we all need to remember, right? Just to spread joy and positivity because, we're going to get into it on Tell It All Tuesday. And I need to start the day off with something light, okay? Because we're going to get into some heavy news today. And I want us to remember that in that video, right? Spreading those little seeds of joy can grow into bigger trees of joy. And so with that, let's get into how to honor God with our body. So God, please guard our mind and guard our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, protect my ears. Help me to listen for your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth, Lord. Keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please protect my hands and to help them serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect my reproductive organs and help me to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect my feet and help me to walk in your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And those are things I just really want us to remember and set our hearts upon this morning because, like I said, things that are happening right now are pretty heavy, going into the holidays. Some of us will be spending time with family, some of us won't, some of us may not be going shopping. And I just want to remind everybody as well to, remember this is a blackout from today till December 2nd. No excessive shopping, right? Definitely no Black Friday shopping, right? We want to make sure that we are not putting our dollars into the system because right now is a time to really show um, who we are, and I know that there are a few different groups doing this and promoting to stay out of the economic system this Black Friday. So hopefully it will go well. My whole thing is it needs to last beyond Black Friday, and we really need to transition how we spend our dollars and who we spend our dollars with. And I want to thank Minnesota Fats for reposting the stream and joining us this morning. And Spud McKenzie says, good morning and amen. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And so the next bit of news I want to get into, it's not so much news. I would say it's more of a public service announcement. I came across this video where this young woman, I won't play the entire video because it's over 20 minutes, but this young woman, she unfortunately was kidnapped in a Lyft vehicle by a woman of Turkish descent. And this happened in Connecticut. And the woman was like right near her stop. And instead of going the direction of her stop, she went into another direction. And the woman, she jumped out of the car. Luckily, she's still alive. She does have, injuries. And the bad part is, of course, the way our medical system is set up, it's very crazy. She didn't have insurance, and her medical bills are over $11,000. And I really find that interesting because we've seen situations where people that aren't from this country, they don't necessarily get bogged down with that type of financial burden. But we're burdening American citizens with it. And I don't know if this woman is an American citizen or not. I'm just saying she sounds American that happened to. I'm not saying I don't know if she's a black American or not. She is melanated. Like I said, I don't know her ethnic background. But I do know her being in this situation, a melanated woman and a woman from Turkey, basically talking to somebody on the phone to traffic her, right? Describing what she had on and, what she kind of looked like because the woman, the victim, she was saying, she would go back and forth between speaking in a Turkish language and English. And I just wanted to put this video out there as a PSA for young women because you know how Uber says, okay, we'll send a woman to come and pick you up. And the person in the video brought up a good point. In the upside down world we live in, what if somebody believes that they're a woman when they're not really not a woman and a man shows up to pick you up in a Uber or a Lyft, right? Just because you've made this concession, right? Well, somebody wants a biological female to pick up another biological female because the thing is you believe that you're going to be safe. And this is something, that I really want these rideshare companies to do. They need to start disclosing if these people are American citizens or not. Because I definitely that's going to change the way people get their rights. I want to know, does the person picking me up speak English? And is that the person that's actually in the picture? Because I was a victim, in my opinion, of fraud in a sense where luckily I was with my husband, but the driver didn't match the driver on the Uber. And he had a hat on, he was trying to hide, didn't speak a lick of English. Yeah, that happened in Kansas City, Missouri. They have a problem up there. There's a problem all with these ride shares, and I think they should be thoroughly investigated. I don't think they need to be investigated by the government. I think it just needs public investigation and outcry for audit of these rideshare companies hiring people that are here illegally. How are they even getting driver's licenses? Number one, not speaking a lick of English and driving other people around in cars and getting paid for it. Like there needs to be a whole investigation, class action lawsuits, everything. Okay. We shut this down. We will bankrupt you before you are allowed to injure us. Lyft and Uber, because you're two of the biggest rideshare companies. But just know you can actually start your own rideshare company. Um, there are actually apps out there so you can do it yourself. I'm just saying, capitalism is great. Use it. And Taylor Norton says, "Good morning and amen. Good morning to you. And thank you so much for joining us on YouTube." So let's get into the video.
Almost died jumping out of a moving lift.
All the women and teens out there that take Ubers and taxis everywhere just was made aware of a new danger that's going on. You might want to listen up.
Uber Eats and Uber rideshare and human trafficking.
Uber Eats?
There is a correlation.
Child lock and make sure that the lock is actually unlocked and not on the lock, because this is one of the fastest ways to get trafficked. So what I've noticed is a lot of women don't know where the child lock is or what it is. This is exactly what you want to look for when you're getting into a car, or it'll be on the side.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good
human
point.
trafficking. There is a correlation regarding victimization. Uber Eats and Uber rideshare and human trafficking.
Uber Eats?
There is a correlation regarding victimization by way of using good old Uber Eats and good old Uber rideshare. Here's the top 3 things you can do as an Uber Eats customer and an Uber rideshare customer to prevent victimization of a crime, and in particular, becoming a victim of human trafficking. Number 1, for Uber Eats, at all times, use a male name. Delivery drivers often look for female names when they're delivering. Number 2, as you can imagine, contactless drop-off. Why would you answer the door if you don't have to? Number 3.
That's a fact.
Even with contactless delivery, you don't have to use your address. Use your neighbor's address, use the next building. Have them come up to your apartment number, always the lobby, with Uber rideshare. Number 1.
Yeah, I'm not meeting no Uber or no DoorDash person at the door. I'm not doing that. Just drop my food off respectfully. Yeah, what I mean, and just, carry on about your day. If you have contact,
Tell them to pull over. Tell them you're going to fucking throw up. Throw up all over the car. And if that doesn't work, tell them you're going to pull down your shit all over the car. Okay? I'm not kidding. A lot of lawsuits existing with this stuff, with this company.
but they can fix it if they up their security, though. And as far as like Uber Eats and stuff like that and DoorDash, I had them drop this stuff off at my door respectfully, because if it gets dropped off percentages,
I take some safety steps in the right direction to just make passengers feel more safe. Me personally, I don't like being in Ubers where the driver just doesn't know how to shut up. I get where some women can definitely feel unsafe. I know that there are people who do diabolical things in Ubers all the time. But either way, let me know what you think about this whole new option and how you think this thing is going to go.
See, the only thing about a woman's only Uber ride or Uber driver is we know in 2025 it's gonna be that one guy that says he's a girl, and just to get in there and prove a point. I'm allowed to ride in here too because I consider myself a woman. It's gonna be that type of situation. It's gonna be that type of some dude to be like, oh, it's not fair. Why do the women get cheap prices? Like, instead of just, who gives a damn? Like, ladies, if y'all feel safer over there, do what you do. Know what I mean? Because I'm always looking at things from a perspective of my daughter or my wife. Now, I mean, if my wife says, I was about to say daddy, but babe, I'm not so comfortable riding in an Uber with men. Okay, I would love for there to be an option for her to be able to ride in an Uber with a woman, if that's what she feels safe with.
I got my things ready, got my bag. I went outside. I walked the license plate, the car, the driver, everything matched the picture on Lyft. Everything was correct. Okay, the driver, she had like this accent. I can tell she was foreign. Before we got off exit 63, she was on the phone with some man. And she was like explaining to them what I was wearing. I didn't think too much of it because first she was speaking another language. I don't know what she was speaking on the phone with this man. The language she was speaking, it sounded like it was she was from the Middle East, or but she said something in English when she was on the phone with the man, which is weird because she was speaking another language, and then all of a sudden she started to say dark skin, red sweater. When she said red sweater, dark skin. When she said red sweater, dark skin, I had on a red sweater and I'm dark skin. So she was describing whoever she was on the phone with, she was describing me to that person, what I was wearing, how I looked, which was weird. I did not think too much of it because I was about to be to work. I was almost to my destination. So you know what? Even though I was nervous, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just let God handle the rest. You know, I'm about to be to my destination. I'm gonna just let her take me to my destination. But we got off exit 63. Okay, so I'm back to finish the story. I'm so sorry, y'all. I could not finish the video the other day. I was not right emotionally. I had a lot on my plate. Everything was, the incident happened. That is why my face looks better. But the damage is already done. The trauma is still there. Let me finish the story. Okay, so we got off exit 63. The Lyft driver, she had to turn left to get to my destination once you get off exit 63. The Lyft driver had her left turn signals on. Mind you, she had her left turn signals on. So even she knew she had to turn left. Even the GPS told her she had to turn left. Guess what she did? She ended the ride and got back on the highway. We were almost to my destination. She got back on the highway while I was still in the car. I'm like telling her, ma'am, you passed my destination. What are you doing? This lady did not say nothing. I'm like, girl, what are you doing?
Nah.
She told me to shut up. She didn't have to tell me nothing else. I jumped out that car so fast. I jumped out the car while it was moving. That shit hurt so bad. I thought I was going to die because she was going fast. Like, you know, when somebody's trying to kidnap you, they try to go fast. They try to like get away with it fast. That's how fast she was going while I was jumping out the car. Damn. You know, that day, I thought I was never going to see my mom again. I thought I was never going to see my dad again. I thought it was it. Like, it felt like a movie, y'all. It felt like I was in a movie. Like, I keep replaying the scenario in my head. When I jumped out the car, all I can remember is holding my head. I was bleeding out my head. I was bleeding in my other parts of the body, but it was mainly in my head. And I was holding my head while I was walking to the plaza because I needed to go somewhere where there was a lot of people, just in case she tried to come back and, you know. So I just walked to the plaza. It literally took me like 10 seconds. That's when I called the cops. Mind you, this incident happened a couple days before my birthday. I thought I wasn't gonna make it home to spend time with my family for my birthday. Crazy. Like, I really thought that I was going to die. Tell me why, while I was walking to the plaza, it was so many cars out there, nobody stopped for me. Nobody stopped for me. Nobody asked me if I was okay. Luckily, I had the sense to call 911 myself. But what if I couldn't call 911? Who gonna call 911 for me? You see what I mean? If I see somebody just jump out the car, if I see somebody bleeding out their head, crying, walking to the plaza, I'm gonna stop the car and ask them if they're okay. Especially if it's a young girl like me. Clearly, I just went through hell. So the fact that none of the cars stopped for me, they was all looking, y'all. When the cops came, the paramedics came, I got in the ambulance and I was transported to Yale New Haven Hospital all the way from Clinton. Mind you, I didn't even realize I was losing my memory until the paramedics asked me what my age was. I couldn't answer. I didn't even know how old I was. That's how bad my memory was functioning. I think it's because I was going through so much trauma. So he asked me how old I was. I didn't even know. But then I remembered, wait. He asked me when my birthday was, and I'm like, wait, my birthday's coming up. I said to him, June 25th, 2001. Like, I was so uncertain.
Over $11,000 in medical bills. And I'll definitely, have the link so you guys can watch the video in the entirety. But I wanted to show that as a PSA because, I have young children and they use Uber and Lyft living here in Georgia. And, and I've talked to them about the, instances where things can go wrong. What's your exit plan? We make sure that they have mace and different things to protect themselves. But it's crazy out here, and it's interesting because before the influx of these illegal immigrants, and I'm just going to say it like it is. I don't know for you guys, but do you remember a lot of this criminal activity happening? I'm just saying. I mean, there's been crime. You know what I'm saying? Not no cap. No cap was, as they like to say. Even as I drove Uber and Lyft, and I remember picking up a fare that the police had, were casing the house to actually, apprehend this individual, right? I didn't know that, but the police did, and I was safe and everything. But after that, I stopped driving because it was a wake up call for me personally. I was like, okay, this is not safe to do, And I think about taxi drivers and different things. But see, with these rideshare companies, they really don't have safety protocols in place. They're just trusting that these people say they are who they are, and they're letting people that are here illegally in this country. I don't know what states are giving these people driver's licenses, but these people are driving. And if this is a trafficking issue, then this is going to be something that has to be investigated by the federal government. As much as I don't like to bring the federal government into everything, this is something DHS is going to have to look into. Uber and Lyft. You need to demand that they send over who's driving for them, and if they are US citizens, and if there's trafficking involved with their companies, because nobody's talking about this, and it needs to be dealt with. And Alicia Love, hi, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us in YouTube. And Spud says, get these folks out of our country now. Look, here's my thing. I know people come here for a better life, and I want people to do well, but I want people to do it the right way, and I want people to come here that want to be here. The problem, in my opinion, with those that have been seeking asylum and refugee, they're not vetted. Okay, they just get to come over here. Like, hey, we're going to keep you safe. Come over here. But we're not saying, hey, you're here in America. You're going to be about the business of the American people. Okay. I know who you are, your ethnicity from wherever you came from, but if you decide to be here in America, you're going to have to abide by being in America. Okay. And what American values are. Because see, all this refugee asylum seeker stuff, they're bringing them with them, and it's destroying our country. It truly is. I'm just gonna have to say it like it is. This Tell It All Tuesday, you guys, and we are definitely going to tell it all. And yawn, political parties get out. Yeah, yeah. I gotta figure out what that acronym is. YAWN. Okay, I'll figure it out later. But political parties get out. Yeah, we need to just vote for people who are going to do the job. And if they don't do the job, we need to be on to the next person, right? That is how it should be. Now, there are a few items that I just want to share with you guys. Now, again, this is Tell It All Tuesday, so everything isn't, how should I say it, cohesive. I was going to be not jumping from subject to subject. I do have some subject matter to get to, and it is going to be talking about asylum seekers, refugees, and what we're going through here as a country. But I want to say, you said left and right bleeds from the same parasite. Yeah, yeah. Vote independent. Absolutely. Thank you, the actual frozen cactus. Appreciate you. Okay, so I wanted to share something that one of my viewers went through, and she shared this on X, and this is so soulful. She says, and people wonder why I am the way I am, because how many people do you know can get people behind the curtain to delete the responses you invoke from Grok? LOL. LOL. Luckily, I keep receipts. So I guess she was having a conversation with Grok, and this is the very real truth that this political system already has a hierarchy baked into it. if you can step outside of the civics textbook long enough to see it, I'm done, right? And there's Grok. Fair enough. De facto hierarchies influence wealth and networks on indelible shape politics, often favoring incumbents over ideals. Yet, formalizing lineage based gates risk entrenching elites, contradicting the matriotic churn that exposed Sherfulus McCormick's alleged graft. True reckoning demands ironic clad enforcement against opportunism, letting the system's accountability mechanism honor um, foundational. And I guess it went on. But yeah, interesting. And she sent me this message. That's me. It's our turn. Our piece. She says, Grok deleted a conversation I had with it yesterday about the $5 million FEMA fraud case. So I'm not surprised if you weren't able to find something. Yeah. And just understand that you know, they are, I want to say Congress has been lobbied to have these wonderful AI systems to be more monitored. Now, I'm not sure how lobbying Congress is going to get it to be more monitored. Maybe they will come up with legislation that these AI companies may have to follow. But yeah, this is something that we're going to have to really have be aware of, right? That it's out there because doctors and lawyers are like, we're losing money because our patients don't believe us anymore, or our clients don't believe us anymore. No, we don't. I was questioning my doctors well before you know AI models, just because I'm like, you're not going to just expect me to believe you. You're practicing medicine and you're treating me. You're not curing me. Like, what are we doing here? I'm gonna question everything. I'm gonna wear you out, whether you like it or not. And as a patient, I will leave. I'll find somebody else. Um, but we have to be our own best advocate, right? And Uncle Coldwater, thank you for joining us this morning. And he has good morning, UVN. Good morning, and thank you so much for reposting the stream. And let's see, there was another article that I wanted to get to. Hopefully, this is the right one. Yes. Now, this, you guys are not going to be able to hear it. So I'm going to have to remove this and then reshare it. But that was Representative Al Green and what he decided to do this past weekend was he was petitioning, not petitioning. It was a protest, I guess. They're doing these anti-Trump protests, and it's always weird to me when they're doing that because I'm like, why? Why are you? Why? You know what I'm saying? Why are you again protesting Trump? And I guess, you can protest whatever you want, but what do you want? What do you want? He has closed the borders like everybody wants. He's working on the economy, but you're still mad about what? And you want to impeach him over what? Like this is the stuff that people are tired of with all of these types of this political theater. So let me reshare. There we go. And the post says Al Green's call for Donald Trump's impeachment from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. There will be articles of impeachment filed. My conscience tells me that I must vote to impeach a president who disrespects the Constitution. How? A president who wants to be an authoritarian, who is devolving our democracy into a dictatorship. What are you talking about? He must be impeached. He must be convicted. He must be removed. Okay, is it just me? Or is anybody following the logic behind this nonsense? It's so crazy. And Blockbox says they want to impeach him because they can't deport FBA. Something's wrong. Something is really, and Bloodblock says they don't read the Constitution. aware, because if they did, they would know we were a republic and not a democracy. Drives me nuts every time they do that. And then they want to go, we're a democratic republic. No, we are a republic. And you keep forgetting that. You keep forgetting that you have constituents that you are supposed to represent. And I don't know why people keep sending you back to Washington to represent them. It's ridiculous. Blowblocks are laughing. Cajun Lady says, why are they protesting to make our country? Why are they protesting to make our country great again? Right. Well, they want to destroy it because they're low information. It's something. But let's see what Mr. Green has to say.
Articles of impeachment filed, and there will be articles of impeachment voted on in the Congress of the United States of America. We are not going to just file. We are going to have every member of Congress take a stand. This is a time for all of us to take a stand. You vote your conscience. My conscience tells me that I must vote to impeach a president who would put the lives of members of Congress at risk, a president who disrespects the Constitution, who doesn't believe in the separation of powers, who doesn't believe that people have a right to peacefully assemble and protest, a president who wants to be an authoritarian, who is devolving our democracy into a dictatorship. He must be impeached. He must be convicted. He must be removed.
Okay, I mean, all that, I guess it sounds great. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to work, because in order to be impeached, there actually has to be some sort of crime committed. There's been no crimes committed. Stop that. Because it's very interesting, right? Because they talk about, well, he's got all the levers of government, but then when something doesn't happen that they want, they say, well, they're in charge of all 4 parts of the government, then why can't they get it done? What's wrong with you people? I mean, really, honestly. Bellplock says, that's awesome. Now that video is proof of treason, right? Cajun Lady says, good grief, these people are diabolical. They are, and they have nothing better to do. That's why they're outside. I think he could spend, he could do better things by working for the American people. It is very interesting. And Uncle Coldwater says they do not want to use republic because it sounds too close to Republicans. So they want to use democracy because it sounds more like Democrats. Wordplay, absolutely. Word and mind play. But see, this is something that's going to, it's blowing up in their face what they're doing. Because unfortunately for them, what they don't realize is that the American people are actually keeping track of what they're doing. See, we are not our parents. We don't trust any of you. You lost that a long time ago. We are more informed as voters. We are more informed as citizens of this republic, and we demand representation. Now, we're no longer saying, okay, we're going to send you because we think you can do a good job. No, we're at the point where we're going to send you and you better do a good job. And if you don't, then the American public, we are going to let you know by never sending you back to Washington again. I'm just saying, we have choices, and we know we have better choices than what's being presented to us. And so that's what I'm grateful for. So this next video we're going to get into, I'm going to kind of not jump around too much in the video, but it's going to set the stage of where we're going to take our conversation today. So it's one of those things I'm going to need you to pay attention to the jumps and explanations, because what it's going to do is later on, as we get further into this Tell It All Tuesday, it's going to, bring everything together. So let's start with our first video.
Teaching a seminar on citizenship once, and a student raised her hand with a question that stopped me cold. she said, "Professor, what happens when someone represents two different places at the same time? Like, whose interests do they actually serve?" I told her that's one of the oldest questions in political philosophy, and history has answered it the same way every single time. You can't serve two masters. Eventually, you have to choose. And when you make that choice, one side will never trust you again. That conversation came back to me this week when I started watching what's developing with Ilhan Omar in Minnesota. Now, before I go further, let me be clear about what I'm seeing. I'm not talking about one event or one controversy. I'm talking about a pattern. A pattern I've seen play out dozens of times across history. A pattern that always ends the same way. Omar represents Minnesota's 5th district, large Somali population. She came here as a refugee, became a citizen, got elected to Congress. That's the American story, right? The whole point of this country: come here, become American, participate in democracy. But here's what I'm watching develop, and this is what interests me as someone who studies how these things unfold. Omar has been advising her Somali constituents on how to handle encounters with immigration enforcement, telling them their rights, how to avoid answering questions, what not to say. Now, she can argue that's just legal advice. Everyone has rights. Fair enough. But Republicans are calling for her deportation, Texas congressmen circulating petitions, Elon Musk saying she's breaking the law, other representatives demanding investigations. That's the surface story. That's what everyone's talking about. But that's not what interests me. What interests me is the pattern underneath, because I've seen this pattern before. In Athens, in Rome, in every republic that's ever existed. And if history is any guide, I can tell you exactly how this ends. Let me explain what I mean. When I farmed, I learned something about irrigation systems. You can't water two fields in opposite directions with the same pump. The physics don't work. Water flows downhill. You have to choose which field gets the water first. You can alternate, sure, but at any given moment, one field is getting water and the other isn't. Politics works the same way. Loyalty isn't infinite. Resources aren't infinite. Time isn't infinite. When you represent people, you're constantly making choices about whose interests come first, and those choices reveal where your real loyalties lie. Now, here's the thing about representative government. The whole concept depends on one simple idea. The person you elect puts your interests first, not their interests, not some other group's interests. Yours. That's the deal. That's why we call it representation. But what happens when a representative has divided loyalty? What happens when they're trying to serve two different communities with two different sets of interests? History tells us exactly what happens, and it's never good. Let me tell you about Alcibiades. Brilliant Athenian general and politician, charismatic, smart, rising star in Athenian politics. But when Athens turned on him, he defected to Sparta, started advising Athens' enemies on how to defeat Athens. Then when Sparta turned on him, he went to Persia, then back to Athens, then back out again. He kept trying to serve multiple masters, kept switching sides based on what benefited him personally. And you know what happened? Nobody trusted him. Not Athens, not Sparta, not Persia. He ended up assassinated in exile, trusted by no one, abandoned by everyone. Because here's what everyone eventually figured out. When someone has divided loyalty, they don't really have loyalty to anyone except themselves. The Athenians wrote about this extensively. Thucydides documented case after case of politicians who tried to play both sides, and every single time it ended in disaster. Not just for the politician, but for the entire city. Because divided loyalty creates a specific kind of political poison. It makes everyone suspicious. When citizens can't trust that their representatives are putting the city's interests first, they stop participating. They stop believing in the system. They start looking for strong men who at least are clear about whose side they're on. That's how republics die. Not from external conquest from internal distrust. Now, I'm not saying Omar is Alcibiades, but I am saying the pattern is recognizable. When politicians start prioritizing ethnic or religious identity over the interests of the people who elected them, voters notice. And once voters notice, trust evaporates. And here's what's developing that nobody's really talking about. The Trump administration is focusing on immigration enforcement. That's not a secret. They campaigned on it, they won on it, they're implementing it. You can agree or disagree with the policy, but it's happening. Now, if you're a representative whose district includes a significant population of people potentially affected by that enforcement, you have choices to make. You can work within the system to change the law, propose legislation, build coalitions, make arguments. That's how the system works. Or you can position yourself as protector of one specific ethnic group against the government you're part of. Omar chose the second path, and that choice has consequences. Because here's what I've learned from studying political systems. Once you position yourself as defender of one ethnic group against the broader society, you can't easily walk that back. You've made a choice about who your people are, and everyone else notices. The Somali community sees her as their advocate. That's why they support her. But everyone else in Minnesota starts asking a different question. Does she represent Minnesota or does she represent Somalia? And that question, once it gets asked, never goes away. I saw something similar when I was teaching at Fresno State. We had debates about whether university resources should be allocated based on ethnic identity or based on academic merit. Sounds abstract, right? But it wasn't abstract to the students involved. Once you start making decisions based on ethnic identity, everyone starts thinking in those terms. The Asian students start asking why they're being treated one way. The white students start asking why they're being treated another way. The Hispanic students start forming their own caucuses. And pretty soon, you don't have a university community anymore. You have competing ethnic factions who happen to share a campus. Same thing happens in politics. Once ethnic identity becomes the organizing principle, civic identity dissolves. Let me give you another historical example. Rome had this same problem with barbarian generals. Rome would recruit military leaders from Germanic tribes, give them Roman citizenship, put them in command of Roman legions. Everything seemed fine until it wasn't. Because when those generals had to choose between their birth tribe and Rome, many of them chose their tribe. They'd use Roman training, Roman equipment, Roman tactics, but they'd use them against Rome. Or they'd negotiate deals that benefited their ethnic kinsmen at Rome's expense. The most famous case was Alaric, Visigothic general, served in the Roman army, was given citizenship, rose through the ranks. But when it came down to it, he led his Visigoths to sack Rome itself in 410 AD. Why? Because he never really became Roman. He stayed Visigothic. His identity never shifted. And when his interests and Rome's interests diverged, he chose his people over Rome. Rome learned an expensive lesson. You can give someone citizenship. You can give them power. You can give them position, but you can't force them to identify with the civilization that gave them those things. Identity goes deeper than paperwork. Now, am I saying Omar is going to take up arms against America? Of course not. This isn't the 5th century, but the underlying dynamic is the same. The question of where someone's deepest loyalty lies never goes away. And right now, through her actions and her choices, Omar is answering that question. Maybe not in the way she intends, but she's answering it nonetheless. Here's what I think is actually happening, and this is where the pattern gets interesting. Omar won her district because of identity politics. First Somali American in Congress, first Muslim woman, historic firsts. The progressive narrative loves that story. And her district has enough Somali voters to form a decisive bloc, so she doubled down on that identity. Makes sense politically. Dance with the one who brought you. But here's the problem with identity politics. Once you base your entire political brand on representing one specific ethnic or religious group, you can't pivot when circumstances change. You're locked in, and circumstances are changing. The Trump administration is enforcing immigration law more aggressively than the previous administration. Public opinion on immigration has shifted dramatically. Even Democratic voters are expressing concerns about border security. The political environment that elevated Omar is shifting underneath her feet, but she can't shift with it because her entire political identity is wrapped up in being the defender of one specific community. If she moderates, she loses that community. But if she doesn't moderate, she alienates everyone else. That's the trap of identity politics. It works great when the political winds are blowing in your direction, but when they shift, you don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah. And there, I mean, this is a long video. I think it's like over 30 minutes, and I will definitely link it so you guys can watch and continue. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Those are facts. She has, how some like to say, she has hitched her wagon, right, to the Somali community over America. And people have been saying it for a long time because she's always like, I'm Somali. I'm Somali. I'm like, well, you're in America, ma'am. You are no longer in Somalia. But hey, if you want to go back there and do all the politics you want, we will gladly send you back. But now she's kind of dancing in, President Trump's like, well, you can't deport me. I'm an American. But all you talk about is Somalia and being here, being Somali first, not America, Somali first. Like that's your thing, right? And Michonne says loyalty hasn't been for us. Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, it's deep. And cover from from YouTube says, see how that paid off? Mm-hmm. Right. And Cajun lady said, sadly, they don't want her back in Somalia, right? Because, they kind of ran her family out of town, so to speak, that Western term. Just saying. Now, I want to show you guys a video. After all of that, like that's the setup, right? She has politically hitched her wagon with identity politics to the Somali community, right? Thinking, okay, if I'm for Somali first, not America, I will always have a place here. Ma'am, bad decision. Oh, she's the first Somali. She's the first Muslim. And we'll get into that issue that I have where they keep juxtaposing the two. When we have, freedom of religion, but you keep tying religion to your identity and ethnicity. It's very crazy, but that's kind of who they are. And Patty Cake says, I think Black Americans would be the best example of identity politics because we wouldn't lose sight of other Americans. We are Americans. Exactly. And we all know when Black Americans do well, so does everybody else. We like to spend money. How's everybody else's wallets doing? Not ours, but everybody else, right? So we have been a benefit to this company, to not company. It feels like a company sometimes, to this country. We've been a benefit. We have not been a deficit. Our dollars actually stay here and circulate here in the United States. Our dollars don't go overseas to other people to prop up other countries. But again, let's check out Miss Omar.
Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive. Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation. So not only are we not going anywhere, we are not going to allow anybody to make us feel less Minnesotan or less American.
Okay, y'all heard her. We're not going to have anybody make us feel less than. Then why did you start with Somali first? Because you said it with your whole chest that you're Somali first. And we're the fabric of this country. No, you're not, ma'am. Not being here since the 90s. You are not the fabric of this country. Stop that. Y'all ain't even got a needle with the thread. to put a stitch up in here. Being here since the 90s. Stop that. Look, stop that. Blood boxes, WTF. Look, ma'am. Stop it. Y'all been here since roughly 1990s. That's when George W. Bush, out of the kindness of his heart, right, and just dumped that all on us. And he brought your people over here. But again, some of your people were fleeing. And that goes back to your family, ma'am, that was fleeing. And cut from and it's a long at says she is deranged. Yeah, and Bloodbox says time to erase the 1965 acts. I know it's mind-boggling how some of these politicians, especially her, the way they insert themselves into politics, and it's the identity politics that she's playing. As you heard her, Somali first. Not talking about being an American until after we are embedded in the fabric of this country. She couldn't even talk straight because it's like, no, you're not about being an American, ma'am. You're about being a Somali that's in America. That's different than being an American who came from Somalia. Okay. And saying we are here to be a benefit to America. We are Americans who were refugees from Somalia. That's not your mindset nor position. You're Somalis in America, and you have brought every degenerate behavior with you. We don't want it. And it's been nothing but crime after crime after crime since you got here, since the 90s. Okay? But we're going to get into it here. That's why we're doing Tell It All Tuesday. Cue up the next video.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem was in the Twin Cities today, and tonight Noem says that there's no final decision made yet on whether to terminate the temporary protection status for the country of Somalia.
TPS is a program that was always meant to be temporary. It's a program that is put in place, and I believe for Somalia over 30 years ago, and will need to be evaluated to make sure that it comes and is in the process for which it was intended.
According to a congressional research report, there are 705 Somali individuals covered by TPS nationwide. Minnesota has the largest Somali population in the country. Somalia's current temporary protected status extension runs through March of next year. Meantime, many Somalis gathered in Minneapolis today to publicly voice their opposition. Fox 9's Leon Purvis joining us tonight from Minneapolis. And Leon, what are they saying about the president's proposal?
Well, Kelsey, many people gathered at Carmel Mall, the heart of the Somali community, to support one another.
Manta, 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 Omani Wayne, manta, manta, manta.
Okay, so you were in America chanting some song from Somalia in your native tongue from another country, talking about we need to be here in America. You are not about America. You are the most dangerous thing America could ever have. I want all of y'all deported. 10 toes down. Y'all got to go. You do not have the interest of the American people. Y'all got to go. There's less than 200,000 of y'all here. We can wipe that up by March. Deport them all. I do not care. If you are from that region, and take your babies with you. They're American citizens. I don't care. Get off the soil. You don't respect this country. Y'all got to go. Let me calm down. Let me finish the video.
Carmel Mall was packed on the 4th floor with people from the Somali community and people coming out in support. On Friday, President Trump said that he would immediately terminate temporary deportation protections from Somalis living in Minnesota, blaming them for fraud in Minnesota.
We're not here by accident. We're here to stay forever.
There are currently 500 Somalis in Minnesota living with these protections, and a total of 700.
Now, for him to say that was a very bold statement. We're not here by accident and we're here forever. He needs to go. Like Trump, whoever that was, that I need him on the first thing out of town forever. Because guarantee you he's probably part of some of this fraud going on, allegedly.
100 nationwide. Many expect this to be challenged in court, but in the meantime, Somalis here say they are fearful of what's to come.
People are always going to be fearful, but we're telling our people we're greater than their fear. We have resilience. We're people that are brave.
When temporary status is revoked, federal law states it can't take effect earlier than 60 days after publication of that notice, and it has to come from the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem.
What the president is doing is un-American. It's not Minnesotan.
The Protected Status Program for Somalis was launched in 1991 by President George H.W. Bush. It grants protections to eligible people who can't return to their homeland safely due to civil war or natural disasters.
What we decided to do is to bring our community in the heart of in the Somali community here in Minnesota, which is Carmel Mall, to show that, you know, our neighbors are with us, Minnesotans are with us, and we're all together in this fight.
There's no word yet on if or when the removal of temporary status will take place, but experts say if someone is under temporary protected status from Somalia, to check with them on legal counsel to see what their options are. We're live in Minneapolis. Leon Purvis, Fox 9.
All right, thanks, Leon. Still the
Yeah. So he was just like, you know, he needs to do it for us. What? The president, you know what? Let me calm down. Bloodpox says, work smarter, not harder. Stop deporting them one at a time. Erase the 1965 Immigration and Naturalization Act. Yeah, it definitely should be erased or at least modified because, again, people are abusing it and taking, they're just taking the American public for granted. So they're just having a whole celebration, got a whole Somali flag talking about we're here to be in America. Where's the American flags at then? Slim, bruh, sir. You want the benefits of America. You care nothing about this soil. And you never will because you were never told to respect it. Y'all need to go. Y'all need to go. So these Democrat judges are determined to be the interference to anything that Trump says. They are. But you know what? And Bloodpock started laughing. But you know what? He needs to nuke this thing, and he can, just like Obama did. Obama fired like over 200 judges when he got into office, and he replaced them all with loyalist judges that are still in those appointed positions today. Did you hear what I said? They're appointed. They're not elected. They're appointed. He needs to nuke this thing and get rid of all of them, even the ones that he put in office the first time that were Republicans. Because if you are not going to get on board with America first, you got to go. You got to go. We can't have you up in here. Okay? We need judges that are going to respect the American people, and they're going to stop playing the party politics. Okay? And that should be the first thing. Whether he puts people back in that are Republican or Democrat or independent, they need to be about taking care of America's business. That's what those appointments are for. But yeah, he's got to nuke it. He's got to get rid of them. Cajun Lady says, we the people are paying for all of this. Oh, yes, we are. Okay, now let's get into some more of this, y'all. And then I'm going to get into, some things I looked up with Grok briefly. I'm going to have to hustle my bustle to get through this.
The fraud scheme uncovered in Minnesota found money intended for social services has been allegedly siphoned indirectly into the pockets of the Somali terrorist group Al-Shabaab. Somali immigrants in Minnesota have reportedly been abusing systems meant to help the most unfortunate among us, including the latest federally funded autism services. The autism fraud scheme reportedly amassed $14 million through Medicare claims for services that were never provided, involving kids who never had autism. And the Somali immigrants behind this web of schemes have allegedly stolen billions from taxpayers, much of the money going back to the Somali government, where it would then end up in the hands of terrorists. Manhattan Institute investigative reporter Ryan Thorpe was one of the first exposing the schemes for their ties to terrorism. With us now, Ryan, a line from your story stuck out. The largest funder of al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer, and you cite an unnamed source for that. What is the evidence that all of this money that was taken and the billions upon billions of increased funding in Minnesota for social services ended up in Somalia?
Well, billions of dollars of government welfare money is missing in the state of Minnesota.
How do we define missing?
Well, the fraud is so bad that the U.S. Attorney's Office has come out and indicated that they believe their entire government programs, where the fraudulent claims outstrip the legitimate ones. There are cases where indictments have come down or guilty pleas are already in to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars that were fraudulently obtained, filing false claims alongside doctored paperwork. And the indictments are continuing to come. And the U.S. Attorney's Office has made very clear that this is a network of fraud schemes stacked upon fraud schemes, and that while the true dollar figure in terms of stolen funds at this point isn't quite clear, it's safe to say that we're talking about billions of dollars.
Okay. It's pretty wild, some of the things that you lay out, including one group called Feeding the Future that went from getting $3.4 million in 2019 to $200 million 2 years later. They grew faster than NVIDIA. How did nobody see that? Or is it that people and the government and those who are supposed to be the watchdogs, like Tim Walz, like Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, there just weren't looking?
I think it's safe to say that there was a real unwillingness or inability among Democratic state officials in Minnesota to recognize some pretty obvious alarm bells here. All across these programs, claims were skyrocketing, absolutely spiraling out of control over a short period of time. And the reality is that the Somali community, which is where these large-scale fraud rings have been concentrated within this population in the state, it is a sizable voting bloc. It is a voting bloc you have to win if you're going to win political office in Minneapolis. And so I think that was likely a incentive here that made some people not want to look too closely at what's been going on.
Wow. And that would explain why now it's the U.S. attorney looking into it rather than the state law enforcement or state fraud investigators. Is there any indication, Ryan, as you get, and obviously, it's one of those things you drop an investigative piece, and then all of a sudden you get 1,000 more tips, that this goes higher, like actually into state government? You get the last 30 seconds.
I can't confirm that. So I don't want to get out in front of my skis here. What I can say is that this story has generated additional tips, and it is something that we are continuing to look into as we push forward with our efforts to expose the fraud rings that have been taking advantage of the generosity of Minnesota taxpayers.
Yeah, stunning also how little pickup this has gotten around the country in terms of the rest of the media. Applaud your guys' continued work on it. Ryan, come back and talk to us as you uncover more. All right?
Now, he's hilarious about that because people have actually been talking about this for months. It's just that they don't want to pick it up because, hey, we cannot talk about, the group of people that a particular member of Congress is, championing is involved in any type of fraud. Not the Somali community again. Just saying. They got over here. First thing they did was commit a whole bunch of fraud. The first thing they did. Okay. And Uncle Coolwater says, seems to me we need to make sure we check what party anybody is with, especially the Democrats when voting, because all these Democrats in these seats are determined to go against the American Constitution and laws and support anything illegal or illegal aliens being disrespectful and using unethical practices. Wow, on American soil. Yes, and sincerely, Lawless, thank you so much for joining us this morning. She says, "Good morning, founder. Good morning to you too, and thank you so much for reposting the stream." And go on. Wanted to say, while on America's soil, yeah, absolutely. They're just wilding out because there's no repercussions for them. Okay. And Michonne says, "Good day." And the problem is, you've got this person who's like, "I am a Somali Muslim woman." Okay, great. Your people are committing crimes. What are we going to do about it? Huh? Is this thing on, Bueller? You know what I'm saying? Because see, on one breath, you keep telling us that y'all are so proud to be Somali and be here, but all the while you're committing the fraud. Now, I'm sure there are other groups out there committing fraud. We just haven't caught them yet. But this hasn't just happened once. This is a repetitive thing with your community specifically. And you're talking about you're the fabric of this nation if you don't stop, if you don't go somewhere. I'm gonna need you to get some moral fiber. Okay. I'm gonna need you to take some fiber tablets on it. Because no. Okay. If anything, you've been a stain on America. And your people have been a stain on this country. And I think you guys all need to have a meeting, honestly. I think you need to have a group session and talk about the fraud that you are a part of. And you need to stop it. Now, I want to check out this article really quick. Now, I'll put the links to all these articles, for the repost so you guys can have that information. But really quick, with this article, it says the largest funder of Al Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer. Yeah, this is what that gentleman was talking about in the video. And that's just part of it. So you've got Feeding Our Future that defrauded the government millions of dollars. Then you have the autism fraud, right? That's another $14 million. Now you've got a whole separate situation where there's another thing happening where they're sending money back to Somalia. Oh, yeah, there's that too. This isn't, look. And you're the fabric of America? Okay. I can't. So Minnesota is drowning in fraud. Yeah, they really are. Let's get to some of the meat of this. So pretty much, the HHS program, it was designed with low barriers to entry and the minimum requirements for reimbursing it. Nonetheless, the program went live in 2020. Officials pegged its annual estimated price tag at $2.6 million. Okay, that was the Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services Program. Costs quickly spiraled out of control. In 2021, the program paid out more than 21 million in claims. In the following years, annual costs shot up to 42 million, then 74 million, then 104 million. During the first 6 months of 2025, payouts totaled 61 million. Okay, so on August 1st, Minnesota's Department of Human Services moved to scrap the HSS program, noting that payment to 77 housing stabilization providers had been terminated this year due to credible allegations of fraud. Joe Thompson, then the acting U.S. attorney for the District of Minnesota, went even further, stating that the vast majority of the HSS program was fraudulent. Now, that's separate from Feeding Our Future. Y'all are exhausting. Just exhausting. And we're supposed to stand up there and say, "Yay, please save the Somali people." No, y'all need to get up off the soil. I want my money back. I want my money back. Claw it all back. Figure it out. But I want my money. I'm just saying. The Feeding Our Future, $250 million. Okay? $250 million frauding the government. What? And you're talking about Somalis are the fabric of this country. If you don't stop, ma'am, whose face, by the way, she volunteered with Feeding Our Future Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All smiling out in front. Yeah, we're just here to help families, and she's carrying out food and putting in people's cars. What did you know? And how much did you know? Because I'm not buying. Well, I was just volunteering. Uh-uh. Because see, the guy that ran for mayor, he was a part of Feeding Our Future, and you were a big supporter of his to be the mayor of Minneapolis. Oh, you have some explaining to do, Representative Omar. And I'm looking forward to all of it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm just saying. But I'll put this, where y'all can read more at your leisure. Now, I'm going to get to this next comment. Now, this gentleman, he made this comment in the video. So we'll go back to the video because I can't play the whole thing because it's a long video, too. I know y'all. I'm trying to get us moving and up out of here. But here's what bothered me. And this is a statement from the CARE Minnesota Executive Director. So, CARE, just so anybody's knowing, needs to know. Let me see. They help Muslim people. That's the best way I can say it. It's a Muslim thing, and they care for people that are from other countries, but that are primarily Muslim, from what I understand. Which, okay. Anyway. I'm just trying to get to it fast. We'll get into like who they are. Trying to just get an outline. But they're upset about the temporary status ending. Whatever. You had it since 1990. Figure it out. You had it for 36 years. Y'all need to go. And I'm okay with it. But it says, we are deeply disappointed that the administration has chosen to end the Somali TPS program in Minnesota, a legal lifeline for families who have built their lives here for decades. Why are you building your family's lives here? Build up your country. Get out of here. It's temporary. It's not long term. It's temporary. Duh. Like it's not forever. It's crazy. So this decision, fueled by harmful misinformation campaigns that we believe have external political motives, will tear families apart and send individuals to a country they have not known for over 20 years. We don't care. This is not just a bureaucratic change, it is a political attack on the Somali and Muslim community driven by Islamophobic and hateful rhetoric. We strongly urge President Trump to reverse these misguided decisions. No, he's not misguided. The fraud is ridiculous. You need to get off the soil. We're done paying for your nonsense. And I'm making it, I'm saying it nicely. And Cajun Lady says, our government is abusing Americans every day. Oh, absolutely, with this nonsense. And Cajun Lady says, the Muslim Brotherhood. Uh-huh. Absolutely. It's like you're talking about, and here's my issue. Okay. So we live in a country, First Amendment, you have freedom of religion. You can practice religion. Why do they keep conflating being Muslim with being Somali? Huh? So that was a question for me. I was like, wait a minute, why do you keep conflating these two things? One or the other, because if you're from Somalia, that's fine. I could care less how you worship. I could care less. It makes no difference to me. You could worship Satan. Okay, you be a devil worshiper, you be an atheist. I do not care. But they keep conflating the two like, oh my gosh, if you're hateful to me in any way, I have either way to go. No, it doesn't work that way here in America. Not on this soil. And I'm tired of people pandering to these individuals and, basically making them feel like, oh, I'm so sorry. Somebody said something bad about your religion. Nobody's saying anything bad about Islam. Stop that. And it's not an ethnicity. It is a religion. Stop it. So again, y'all, I had to do a little studying. You know me and Grok. We got into it too. So I said, okay, so the deep-rooted connection between Somali ethnicity and Islam. So to address my question, because I was like, what's going on here? Apparently, it's important to start with the historical, cultural context of Somalia itself, and this forms the foundation for why Islam is so intrinsically linked to Somali identity. Somalia, located in the Horn of Africa, has been predominantly Muslim for over 13 years. Now, Christ has been around 2,000 years, so they came around like 700 years later. So they weren't around with Jesus. Okay, it was after the fact. Let's get that together. So Islam first arrived on the Somali coast in the 7th century. Okay, so that would be AD, through Arab traders and missionaries, blending with local Kushtic traditions to create a unique Somali Islamic culture. So today, an estimated 99% of Somali's population, around 17 million people, identifies as Sunni Muslim, making it one of the most uniformly Muslim countries in the world. That's fine. I don't care. It's still a religion. Your ethnicity isn't your religion. But it definitely said here, it says, in essence, for most Somalis, being Somali means being Muslim. So that's their bag. That is their misguided mental bag. Okay? They see themselves as a religious identifier. They identify their ethnicity so intrinsically with Islam that they're just like, well, I'm Muslim, so I don't care. Because I can separate the two. You're Somali. That's what you are. That's your ethnicity. Islam is your religion, and that's separate. So we're going to have two conversations. But see, they don't want to do that. They want to conflate the two and then play, wounded when somebody calls them on something. Oh my gosh, you're being Islamophobic. That's not even a thing. Stop it. Now, if we're talking about people that subscribe to Sharia law that we want up off the soil, okay, we can have that conversation too. And they need to go to. And Uncle Coldwater says, I feel that a lot of these countries that are allowed to be in America don't have a problem doing bad things to America because they feel like America has done a lot of bad things to their countries. So basically, they feel like it's a get back. These people need to go now. They do. They do. Because if you're coming here and it's like, well, I'm going to get my come up and I'm going to, basically crush the heads of people on my way up, you need to go. We don't want you here. We really don't. Because you're not helping America to be a better America. Sorry that there have been some things that happened to your country off our soil. And a lot of the stuff that did happen to you, they're religious wars that have nothing to do with us. Nothing. Your situation was a dust bowl and people decided to have mercy on you and pity on you, and you came over here and you've left nothing but death and destruction. You have not helped this country. You've been a detriment, and I'm gonna show it. So I see why am I Muslims call for prayer in the streets to simply say, we're here to dominate. Ironically, they don't do these things in Muslim nations. Right. Well, in some Muslim nations, because they have different sects of Muslims, yeah, they don't mess with each other like that because they have their own gangs within their Muslim communities. Like I said, they fight all the time. Their situation is really crazy. I wouldn't do it. So freedom of religion, yes, you're right, which I assume you meant by this country, given the Minnesota context, enshrines freedom of religion with the First Amendment, right? Allowing religions to practice any faith or none without government interference. Somali immigrants who began arriving in significant numbers in the 90s, fleeing civil war and famine, have formed one of the largest Somali diasporas in the world, with Minnesota hosting the biggest U.S. community with over 100,000 people. Here they can and do practice Islam freely, right? Building mosques, halal businesses, and community centers. However, in immigrant enclaves like Minnesota's Cedar Riverside neighborhood, often called Little Mogadishu, ethnicity and religion naturally overlap for practical reasons. That's for them, though, in their enclaves. And it's wrong for anybody to support that, right? So community support, identity preservation, diversity from within. You're in America and you need to be Americans. It's one thing to, I should say, make sure you just don't lose the preservation of your ethnicity, right? You have things in your house, you share it within your community, but you're like demanding this be like a little piece of Somalia. Here, we don't want that. I don't even like little Chinatowns. I don't like it. I don't like little Saigon. I don't like it. Get up off the soil. If it's not going to be about America, y'all got to go. Y'all got to go. I am sick and tired of trying to be like, oh, we just have to embrace everybody and we are the world. We are a whole global planet. But you need to find your piece of the rock and have your situation over there. This is America, period. And if you don't have an identity here in America, you need to figure that out. Because if you've wasted all of your time being loyal to another country and not this one, hey, that's on you. You need to figure that out. And a beginner's fitness journey says, why are they not the fabric of Somalia? Right? How can you come here 30 years, become the fabric? Right? Get out now. That's where I'm at, up top. Ilham Omar said that she don't care about deportation because she's wealthy now. She's saying, I got my bag and it really does care about America. That's where she's at. Cajun Lady says, suicidal empathy is what got us Americans here today. It's time for we the people to right the ship because it's our country. Absolutely. And it's, horn rimmed glasses, not combing their hair. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say nothing more. Just people just unkept saying we need to have bleeding hearts for these other people. So I said, how can they call Trump Islamophobic when he wants Somalis committing crime removed from the soil? He's not saying Islam, Islamists. He's saying Somalis, very specific, right? So short explanation, CARE calls Trump Islamophobic. So critics like CARE label Trump's decision Islamophobic because it targets Somalis. Again, Islam is a religion. Somali is your ethnicity. He's focused on these people, but they're lumping it all together. So I just want everybody to have that top of mind when you hear all of the tropes that are going to be coming out about Donald Trump and how he's a racist, which I find that hilarious because you're not even a race, you're an ethnicity. So you need to find a new demeaning buzzword for him. Because if we're talking about people from Somalia, don't talk about him being racist because you have no race here. You're Somali. You are not a race. You're an ethnicity because you're definitely not black. That better not fall from your lips, ma'am. You are not us. You are not invited to the barbecue. Okay? So you need to get up off that porch. You need to figure it out. But the black people, we're not running to your aid ever. Ever. And you need to get up out the Black Caucus as well. Because you're not black. You're not. You can be with the African caucus. They have one. They probably have a Somali caucus. Find it. Figure it out. But you need to stop. Okay. So there was that. And I said to me, this is based on media bias and CARE. But again, I will be adding this link so you guys can see this because, there's a lot of fraud going on, like Feeding Our Future. There were 70 people charged in that $250 million scam. The Medicaid autism scam was a $14 million fraud. Like I said, there's a lot of different things. The Housing Stabilization Services, HSS, 8 were indicated in that, and millions in wire fraud. Okay. And recent reports have even linked these stolen funds to Al-Shabaab via remittances. Okay. Yeah. So they're sending money back to Somali, to their homeland or whatever. It is crazy. So we got back and forth. He was filling my first page, just spot on. 2017 travel ban. Now, Trump had a travel ban, and it was a Muslim travel ban. But now I can understand why he did the Muslim travel ban, because a lot of these ethnicities, they see themselves one and the same, right? Like the Somali people, they also see themselves as Muslim. So they see it one and the same. So he was like, okay, we'll just do a Muslim ban. He wasn't targeting the religious aspect of Islam. He was targeting people who identified as Muslim because they tied their ethnicity to it. That's not on him, that's on y'all. And I'm in complete agreement if that's how you rock and roll. But then you don't get to come to America and say, well, you can't say that because, Islam is a religion. You don't get to play the middle like that. And that's what's exhausting. Pick a side. And my whole thing is, I don't care what country you're from. If you are here on this soil and you are not about the business of America, you need to leave. And that's it. That's all we're doing. And I said, unfortunately, local policy. We got into some other stuff. So now I wanted to talk about what has the Somali community contributed to the American economy as far as jobs and manufacturing. Because she was like, "Where's the fabric?" I'm like, "Okay, fabric of what? What are we talking about? What have you done? You've been here 30 years. What have you done? What manufacturing business do you own where you're hiring other Americans, right? Because if you're the fabric, then that means you're doing things everywhere in every facet: technology, fashion, let's say sports. Where else are we going? Cooking. Anybody, rushing to get Somali cuisine? Anybody? Bueller? The fabric of this country. If you don't stop, if you don't go somewhere, I'm shutting that down. Okay. Now, the workforce population, basically, Somalis have high employment rates, with 58% of working age individuals employed nationally. 2011 2015 data. So this is just data with us 4 years. 62% in Minnesota, often exceeding native born rates in certain demographics. Okay, labor force participation stands at 84% for Somali men aged 25 to 64, and 64% for women, compared to 81% and 73% for US born individuals. Yeah, our numbers are probably going to be higher because there's more of us. Makes sense. The dedication to work has been crucial in labor intensive manufacturing sector. So meat packing and food processing. Okay, these are jobs that they hold. So these jobs often pay $13 to $14 an hour. And employment for refugees escaping poverty, over 56% of Somalis live below the poverty line, higher than any other refugee group. Huh? Let me read that again. Over 56% of Somalis live below the poverty line, higher than any other refugee group. How are y'all in the labor force at 84%, but you're at the poverty line? 56%. Okay. So economically, Somali workers help meatpacking process billions of products annually. One Kansas plant slaughters 3,000 cows per shift. Okay. So there is Minnesota's Wilmar. About 500 Somalis work at Hormel at their plant. At GBS, it's another plant in Minnesota. 80% of the 1,100 employees, around 880, are Somali immigrants. Huh? But you got Americans, but you're not hiring them? Okay, because you can pay them lower wages, obviously. Nationwide, refugees hold 9.5% of manufacturing jobs, double the rate for US born workers, with meat packing ranking fifth highest for refugee concentration after sectors like nail salons and taxi driving. Mm-hmm. But it's who they're hiring. They could hire Americans, but they're not. Yeah. So overall, over 2,000 Somali workers, 11% of the total, are in Minnesota's animal food processing subsector alone, bolstering the state's $20 billion food manufacturing industry and preventing disruptions during events like COVID and the pandemic. Okay. Broader manufacturing essential industries beyond meat packing, Somalis contribute to general manufacturing, construction, agriculture, immigrants, and refugees, including Somalis, make up over 50% of frontline meat packing roles and play key roles in stabilizing food prices by easing shortages. In Minnesota, they also fill 15% of home health care jobs, indirectly supporting manufacturing by enabling other workers to stay employed. Well, I'm glad I know that, and I'm going to really start focusing on being a vegan. So I'm like, I'm already scared of meat. Okay. And I'm good. I'm good. If I do eat meat, I'm definitely going to make sure to buy local, not, you know, buy any well known meats because that, yeah, I'm good. So, entrepreneurship and job creation. Somali Americans, I just want to take that away from them, are notably entrepreneurial with self employment rates at 5.1% and 5.9 in Minnesota, higher than many groups. So in 2006, Minnesota Somalis owned 600 businesses, generally 164 to 394 million in purchasing power through retail, food services, and transportation. Today, this has expanded to thousands of ventures, including grocery stores, restaurants, barbershops, daycare centers, and clothing stores, creating hundreds of jobs. Yeah, so here's an example, right? This person, Kahin, a Somali asylee, so this is asylum seeker, right, who arrived in 1996 and founded Afro Deli in Minneapolis, based chain with 3 locations and 2 million in annual revenue. It employs over 35 people, half US born, exemplifying how Somali-led businesses boost local economies in districts like Minnesota's 5th, home to 2,253 immigrant-owned firms. How did he get the money? How did he get the entry? And why? When we already have Black Americans here who could have started those businesses because it was allowed. I don't want to hear that people just came here and they just automatically got stuff. You prop these people up. And now they have come back to destroy you with their criminal behavior. I don't want to say we're getting what we deserve, but kinda, because you didn't vet any of these people. Asylees aren't vetted. They're just given entry. That's why we have the crime that we have, because that's what they did in their home countries. So, short outline economic Somali Americans. So the population ranges from about 172 to 50,000. Their poverty rate, and this is really what I wanted to get to, 50 to 60% of these people live below the poverty line. How are you this successful and you're still below the poverty line? It makes no sense. And they're highest among major refugee groups. Huh? Their median household income is 25 to 35,000 because most of them are on welfare. Yeah, that part. So we're paying for y'all to be here. I want them all off the soil. That's where I'm at. Okay. So here are their food sectors: manufacturing, transportation, like Amazon, Uber, Lyft, healthcare, retail, manufacturing. Yeah. Yeah. But here's another interesting fact, right? Public assistance, high initial use of SNAP, Medicaid, cash aid, common for refugees their first 5 to 8 years. So they get help, they get propped up 5 to 8 years. It declines sharply after 10 years as English improves and wages rise. I would hope. It says it declines, but they don't go nowhere. Are these people lifetime welfare recipients and we're not talking about this? Really? Now, remittances. Somali households send anywhere from 100 to 300 million a year back to Somalia and East Africa. So those dollars aren't even circulating here in America. They're being sent back to another country. I'm telling you. When I was studying this, I had to keep fanning myself. I had to keep calming down. Let's move on. All right. I said, are there any cases in United States history where naturalized citizens were removed from the United States? And OnlyFacts says the Somalis aren't here to build, they are here to be a part of the welfare system. Exactly. And destroy it. And they're doing a good job. So there are multiple historical instances in U.S. history where naturalized citizens, right, people who had already been granted U.S. citizenship through naturalization were stripped of their citizenship, and in many cases, subsequently deported. Below are some significant examples. Now, denaturalization campaigns in the 1907 to 1940s. There was the Naturalization Act of 1906, and later 1940 Nationality Act allowed the government to cancel naturalization certificates obtained by fraud or if the person was deemed to have shown lack of attachment to the Constitution. Do you think these people have lack of attachment to the Constitution? I do. I say we use that argument. I like it because they hate America. They hate it. They hate our country, but they use all of our resources. They hate us, which means to love less, just saying. But you want to use all the resources and get all the bennies. Now, I will, because I'm for sake of time, I got to keep it moving. But I just want to let you know, yes, there have been places, World War II, alien enemies, Japan, the Cold Era, post 9/11, right? Even as recently as the 2000s, right? The Department of Justice, they pursued denaturalization much more aggressively, especially after the creation of Operation Janus 2017 to present, which uses digitized fingerprint records to find people who naturalized under false identities or concealed criminal deportation history, which I'm glad about that. We may not be able to get people on that, but the massive fraud that's been carried out by the people that did, we should be able to get them deported. The new 700, that TPS study, we should be able to get them deported and anybody else we find. Okay. Y'all getting up off the soil. We might not be able to get rid of all 200,000 of you, but we going to get close. I'm just saying. Um, I said, with SNAP recipients now being asked to reapply, will this affect those that are not American citizens? Right. And I just wanted to ask that question. It says there's no specific timeline has been released when reapplications um, must begin. This goes beyond standard recertification process, which most households complete every 6 to 12 months, which they do. By updating income, household changes, and other details via a shorter form and interview. And what I want to also show you guys is this. Nobody's really talking about this. And I thought about this because, see, a lot of these people that participate in the Muslims and even people with the, what they call the Church of Latter-day Saints too. Y'all need to get them too. With these sister wives and these multiple wives, a lot of these people are on welfare. Okay. And they just claim that they're single women with these children. And where's the dad? If he is not deceased, he needs to be paying child support. And these people need to be declined welfare. Period. If you cannot find the dad, right? Because welfare is supposed to be paid back, by the way. Okay. And if these people decline to take child support from these fathers, and it's usually how they get away with getting welfare because they decline to go after the fathers for welfare, they shouldn't be given any welfare. No cash aid, no food stamps. The regulations need to change because I guarantee you, you change that, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Because, see, this is how the welfare benefits are obtained. Each wife can apply separately as a single mother or single head of household. TANF, SNAP, WIP, Medicaid, Section 8, housing all allow unmarried mothers to qualify based on their own income and household size. So this sister wife can be over here, well, like, I'm only making 20,000. I've got 2 kids. I need a place to stay. They're not even looking for those dads. But I guarantee you, some American fathers are looking for them. They're throwing those people in jail if they don't pay their child support. What's happening with these people? That's all I'm saying. The rules need to change and they need to become more stringent because guess what? When people can't live off the system anymore and they actually have to do the work, they don't come here. They were like, man, don't go to America. They ain't playing. They give you nothing. And that's how it should be. That's how it should be. America's first. Well, my baby was born on the soil. Yeah, but you had your child here knowing that you were committing fraud. And it is fraudulent to come here illegally to be like, well, as long as I have a baby on the soil, that baby will be an American citizen. That's what needs to stop because you're abusing something that wasn't even put in place for that initially. That's not why it was put in place. Because I'm always like this. All right. If there's no Emancipation Proclamation, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? Wouldn't have 13, 14, 15 men without the what's it, that Dred Scott decision. They wouldn't even have to really write those. But they wrote them to make people whole. And it was specifically written for the descendants of slaves, and people have still yet today abused those three amendments in particular to either enrich themselves or harm others. And it's disgusting. It needs to stop. So Uncle Coldwater says that girly man governor in Minnesota is the reason why they are getting away with so much unethical practices, right? The Democrat system is allowing it. Absolutely. And it says all America's enemies are here to only get economic opportunities to fondle, or should I say, send money back, right? To fund whatever is going on in their own countries. Absolutely. And that's why they're talking about these ties to Al-Shabaab that's going on. Okay. So this is something else. There was another rabbit hole I went down. Of course, I had to look up Ilhan Omar, just find out, she was born in 1982. And basically her father served as a colonial in the Somali National Army under President Syed Barre, including during the Ogden War in 77 and 78, and later worked as a teacher and trainer. Her mother was from Brady ethnic group, and her paternal grandfather, Abokar, was a moderate Sunni Muslim who directed Somali's National Marine Transport Organization. He and her father opposed Wahhabi interpretations of Islam. The family included civil servants and educators among relatives. In 91, the Somali Civil War, amid the Civil War, the family fled Somalia and spent 4 years in Dadaab refugee camp in Kenya before being granted asylum and immigrating to the United States in 1995. They initially lived in New York and Arlington, Virginia before settling in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where her father worked as a taxi limousine driver and later for the U.S. Postal Service. Omar became a U.S. citizen in 2000, graduating high school in 2001, and earned a bachelor's degree in political science and international studies from North Dakota State University, 2011. She is Muslim, which we know, and has been open about facing bullying as a child due to her hijab and Somali heritage. Okay. Still not my problem. It isn't. Okay. It's a sign of being conquered, and I need them outlawed in the United States, period. I don't want them more in here. You can't do that. Well, we need to try. I'm just saying, because I'm tired. I'm tired of looking at people that enjoy being conquered. It's not where I'm at. I'm about freedom. And I want that for all Americans and people who want to be in America. And if you don't want to be here and you don't like America, you need to figure something else out. Now, there's no credible tie of her family with Al-Shabaab. Okay. In fact, Omar has actively supported U.S. Somali efforts against Al-Shabaab. As a congresswoman, she led the 2021 letter to President Biden seeking details on the U.S. airstrike targeting the group in Somalia. In 2022, she publicly praised Somali government and community forces for military successes against Al-Shabaab militants. Other rumors, such as fabricated photos of her at a terrorist training camp or claims of multiple arrests tied to extremism, have been disproven. These narratives often tie into broader Islamophobic or anti immigrant rhetoric amplified during her campaigns and amid U.S. debates on Somalia policy. But like the gentleman was saying in his video, she has basically hitched her wagon to being Somali first, not America first, through identity politics. She's a Somali Muslim. That is where she stands. So that's who we know you support. You don't support Americans. This is who you support. So you don't get to come back to me and say, "Well, I support you too." No, you don't. Because all of your views are about Somalia. All of your views are about Islam, which I'm not a part of that. No, absolutely not. I don't force my Christianity on other people. If anything, Christianity holds me to a higher standard. So I love people more, even when I'm not really crazy about them. Okay. Even when I don't like what they're doing. Like, I don't like what she's doing, but I don't hate her. Right. I pray for her. I pray that she, does well. I'm also praying that God rectifies this and get these crazy people up off the soil. I'm just saying. And Uncle Cold says all of American enemies are here to only get economic opportunities, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I already read that. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anybody because y'all been throwing some comments at me. And I'm like, woo. And Michonne says she is for her people. She really is. She look with her whole chest and dares us to say anything. And if we do, it's like you're Islamophobic. No, we're not. See how they play that game? We're not gonna play that game, but that's how they play it. Now, also, I'm gonna also give you guys this link about the fraud that's been going on, right? And this is with Feeding Our Future. That's one of them. The Medicaid housing stabilization services, the autism. That's another one. There was asylum and immigration fraud in 2024, 2025. Okay, apparently a 27-year-old from a Somali national entered the U.S. illegally in 2024 and falsely claimed asylum, lying about prior applications in the UK, US, and Brazil, and concealing family ties to terrorism. Her brother, and this is from Sawad, I guess, is a high-ranking ISIS Somalia member sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury for fundraising and arms procurement. So these people aren't wholesome people. Sorry. Like it's too much. It's too much. And I said, are there other groups that have been given TPS status, like, asylum seekers, refugees, that have also committed this level of fraud in the United States? Because I'm like, what is going on with the Somali? Ma'am, you need to address this. Like I said, you really need to address it because you were volunteering for the Feeding Our Future organization. You were there, bells on, lights up, okay? Serving people. What did you know and when did you know it? You definitely need to be investigated. Everybody in your cabinet needs to be investigated, period. So it's not just them. The Iraqi refugees resettlement program, there was fraud there. Let's see, Afghan refugees. Some of these I'm not shocked by. Venezuela, I'm not shocked. Broader context comparisons. It's like, but the Somali fraud, it's just bad. The Afghan fraud is more diffuse, but poses higher national security risks. No other group matches the concentrated $250 million welfare theft in one program like Feeding Our Future. Somali cases remain outliers for exploiting state-specific Medicaid loopholes. So they found it and they completely exploited it. Completely. Hawala networks, apparently, they responded, betting the tip. They're recovering over $1 billion in COVID fraud. So that's another one. But it's just so sad how we, again, have these bleeding hearts. People just taking advantage of us. We will go over the Maryland exclusionary rule tomorrow because there was some other things that I didn't get to. Yeah, it was just a lot of news, guys. It was a lot of news packed into one day. Let me see if I can get to this video. Let me try and get to this video real quick because it is important and it'll be the last one. Let me see. Let me stop sharing because y'all know I gotta do everything myself. So we are all in this together. There we go. All right, let's check this out, guys. Let's see. There we go. On stage.
We all saw what happened in Irving, Texas over the weekend. So let's go ahead and continue down the rabbit hole of what's actually happening in the DFW suburbs. Because once you see this, you can't unsee it. I'm going to show you clips of this video because the original video is over 20 minutes long. If you want the full thing, I'm going to go ahead and drop the X link down in the comments and y'all can go watch the whole thing there. What you're about to see are new neighborhoods that are popping up within Irving and Plano.
Everybody is Muslim here. Names have been chosen on Muslim scientists of the golden era of Islam. So this is the masjid. MashaAllah, they have the Salam Masjid here. Private park. MashaAllah, written on all of them. Allah Muhammad. Oh my God, this one is a real beauty. This is Muslims, right? Medina Villas, I knew it. They're Muslim. The masjid is right next door. We just walk to the masjid. MashaAllah, that's how easy it is here. SubhanAllah, in America, in the United States. Welcome to Irving, Texas. And we are entering a very interesting community. A community made up of Muslims. A community where the street names are all Muslims. This is the Valencia State's Mahmoud Egal Drive.
These are not just immigrant communities. These are entire subdivisions themed around one ideology, one culture, and one worldview. These folks are not trying to assimilate into America's suburbia. They're trying to build their own separate version of it. And if you understood the actual doctrine behind political Islam, you would understand that the strategy has always been the same. Change the inside first, and then everything else follows. And yes, I know Governor Abbott officially designated the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE as terrorist organizations in Texas. And that is a huge step, but it doesn't automatically stop these neighborhoods from popping up. And it definitely doesn't stop these people living in these areas from running and winning a lot of these local elections. Things like school boards, zoning commissions, city councils. These are the positions that decide what gets built, what gets banned, and what your kids are being taught. And while conservatives are having a whole fight amongst themselves over about who's MAGA and who's America first, let's be honest, these people are neither. If they were truly America first, why would they be turning entire suburbs into miniature recreations of the countries they love? You see that in the street names, the rules, the architecture, the culture, the voting patterns, and the neighborhoods that look nothing like the United States anymore. People massively underestimate how powerful local elections are. This is where everything starts. This is how influence is spread. This is how we end up with politicians like Ilhan Omar, because the only people that go out and vote in these smaller local elections have been Democrats. If it's not a primary or a presidential election, only about 48% of Republicans show up. And spare me the whole they're stealing our votes thing, because I understand that, yes, they are absolutely dirty. And yes, they rig the elections quite often. But it is still a lack of Republicans showing up. And that has been proven by history. Sometimes y'all conservatives are just as bad as the liberals when it comes to facts like this. You'll look me dead in the face and just go, nah, don't be like a liberal. But pay attention, y'all, because this is not random. This is coordinated. And it's happening right in front of our faces here in Texas. This was fun. Have a day.
Yeah. Crazy, right? And I'm just going to leave you guys with this one. First of all, we are in America. What do you mean they've showed you? Okay, let him finish. Lord. Okay. You know, really? Why are you kowtowing to these people that hate America, won't speak English? Okay, and you're kowtowing to them. But this is where we're at. this is where we're at. And personally, for me, I'm not about it. I'm not about it. It's disgusting, in my opinion. We have really, as some like to say, we've kind of jumped the shark, you know, and we are in a time where, and this is just my opinion, where people have really seen that they can take advantage of America. They figured it out. They've cracked the code, and they have taken our kindness for weakness. So with that, I'm going to end the stream for this Tell It All Tuesday. Thank you for everybody that joined me in all the comments. We will be back tomorrow with Women in Wellness Wednesday, and that will be our last broadcast for this week for this Thanksgiving. So we'll probably do a small prayer for those just go into the holiday weekend strong. So remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.